Hey everyone, and welcome to the Retro channel, and today we're throwing a Modchip into this PS1. Now of course there's a million Modchip installation videos out there on YouTube, but a lot of them are just following old and somewhat outdated guides. So I want to see if we can optimize the Modchip installation for this particular one, which is a SCPH7500 series. Just Googling PS1 Modchip wiring brings up a whole bunch of results, and some of them are quite scary, some of them are actually not half bad, but I think we can still do better. Now, of course, there are soft mods available for the PS1 these days, but you still don't have the same flexibility as you would with a hard mod or Modchip. These soft mods still rely on having a memory card and a game disc to actually boot into your backup copy, whereas with a hard mod, you just throw the backup copy in and power on. Now, when it comes to mod chips for the PS1, they certainly have evolved over time, and that's just to keep up with the copy protection measures of the day. But these days, I don't see Sony releasing any more games for the PS1, so there are only three main options that you really need to consider. The mod chip I prefer to use is the Mayumi V4, which pretty much works on all PlayStations. There are two exceptions though, which I do actually have back here. And they are the very early model PS1s with the RCA jacks on the back. For one of these, I'd recommend the MM3 mod chip and the PS1 PAL version. For the NTSC version of these, you can still use the Mayumi V4, but for the PAL models, I'd recommend using the 1 chip. There is one more mod chip that I haven't tried yet, and that is the PS-knee. Unlike all these mod chips, which are based on a PIC microcontroller, the PS-knee is based on an Arduino, so I don't really have spare Arduinos or little AT-Tinys sitting around, so I'm going to stick with the PIC-based solutions. This video is sponsored by PCBWay, who are currently celebrating their 10th anniversary. With PCBWay, they can handle your PCB prototyping needs along with assembly, CNC machining, 3D printing, and a whole lot more. And if you're getting quick, you can score some great coupons with their 10th anniversary tour. So don't delay, head on over to PCBWay. So what we're going to need, obviously a PS1, one that is in working condition. I'd highly recommend servicing the CD-ROM drive before you go trying to put a mod chip in one of these things, and I covered all that in the previous video. We're also going to need solder and a soldering iron, preferably some flux as well. I prefer the MG Chemicals liquid flux for this. We're going to need some wire. In this case, I like to use 28 gauge Kynar wire or PTFE coated wire. We're of course going to need our mod chip, so I'm using the PIC12F629. You can also use the 12C508, and I've got ones that are in an SOIC 8 package. You can also use the standard DIP 8 package. We're also going to need something to program the mod chips, so I'm going to be using the Mini Pro and a little SOIC 8 adapter. No doubt you can find pre-programmed mod chips for sale online, and a lot of them will have a little PCB carrier, which makes soldering to them a little bit easier. I like to use the little SOIC 8 packages because they're quite compact and just solder directly to the legs so we can get that wiring as tight as possible. So before we get into the wiring, let's program one of these things. So we'll throw our little adapter in and then stick the PIC in, making sure we get pin 1 correctly aligned. We should be ready to program. So in our programming software, we're going to look up a 12F629, and it's that one right there. Then we just need to load in the Modchip hex file. Now there are different versions depending on what region you're in, and just to be safe, I'm not going to go into where to find these files. Google is your friend there. Once that's loaded in, we just hit program and go. Sweet, that's our mod chip ready to go. Now we just need to install it. So let's bring our PS1 back over, and because I was previously working on this, I didn't bother putting in any screws or the drive for that matter, so we can just take the board straight out. I did also go around and recap this thing. I didn't include that in the last video because there wasn't really much to see. I think one of the caps around this area may have been leaking because I got a bit of a fishy smell from it when I hit it with the soldering iron, but all the other capacitors appeared to have not leaked. I still don't really trust SMD capacitors from the 90s, so I always change them on site, but I'm not a serial recapper by any means. Removing this shield is pretty easy. The way I do it is just heat up each of these solder blobs and just pry up a little bit on the shield, let it cool down, and then move on to the next one. Eventually you'll have the shield off. And now we're ready to install this mod chip. Now, if you Google for the wiring diagram for this board, which is a PU22 and the Mayumi V4, you'll probably come across the website by William Quaid. And for the most part, it looks pretty easy to follow, and a lot of the joints are centered around IC304, so that's probably where our mod chip's going to live, but I can see a few obvious places where we should be able to optimize this. So that means we'll have shorter wire runs, which means less chance of them picking up interference. Not that it's really a big deal with the PlayStation, but more importantly, it's going to add to the overall look of our installation, which is half the fun of doing this. For some of these boards, you can actually find a good scan of the service manual, and that usually includes a board layout and also where all the traces go. Unfortunately for the PU22, the scan of that service manual doesn't include those images, and the overall scan is pretty rough. So we're just going to trace this out with the multimeter in continuity mode. So let's just start from pin 1, which is VCC. So I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to find that somewhere closer to this chip. And I'm simply going to go from the suggested point, which is up here, and try and find somewhere closer that it connects to. That little cap right there. Looks like it also connects to this cap and this inductor, and there's a nice pad just there for us to solder to. So I'd say that's going to be our pin 1. Just going to put a little bit of flux on there and a tiny bit of fresh solder just to make that stand out a little bit more. There we go. For pin 2, it's this pad right here, so we can't really get much closer than that unless we want to solder directly to this leg here, which I don't particularly want to do, so let's call that pin 2. Similar story with pin 3, it's this pad just here, so we may as well prep that. Pin 4 is all the way over here, so yeah, that's quite the distance, and I'm sure we can do better. We might just follow this trace, which goes to there, and through the other side of the board. Good thing these are not multi-layer boards, so I think it's this one. That goes to there, up to there. I think it was one of these. There it is. Right, so we're getting closer. Looks like it goes over here. Yep. I think it's that one. Yep. And then it goes up there. That might not be any use. It's one of these, I think. Yep, there it is. Oh, we are getting a lot closer. It's coming down here. I think it goes to one of these pads. Sure does. Yeah, that is definitely the same trace. So that's a much closer spot. So that there is our pin 4. Nice. Pin 5 is this point down here, and it looks like the only place it goes is right here. So yeah, that might have to remain pin 5. I don't think it's going to pop up anywhere else. So not much we can do about that one. And pin 6 is this one right here, which looks to be going, that goes through a resistor, that goes to that cap, and then it comes back up. Yeah, and ends up at this chip again. So it looks like that's our best bet for pin 6 as well. Point 7 also looks to be as close as we're going to get. It's that pad right there, so I don't think there's any point in looking into that. And 8 is just ground, which is very easy to find. They've used this point over here, but obviously I think all these, yeah, that's going to be ground. This stuff up here is probably ground. Plenty of places to grab ground, so we'll figure that out once we've got the chip mounted. The last thing to consider is orientation. So if we have the chip this way, pin 1's got a nice straight connection, pin 2 needs to go up there, pin 3 will come down there, pin 4 will go back up there, so on and so forth. So it's worth just spinning this around a few different ways just to see if you can eliminate some of those wire crossovers. Right, and after a bit of thought and some rough sketching, I think I'm going to mount the chip this way, so pin 1 is up on this corner. We're still going to have a little bit of crossover, but it should look pretty neat at the end of the day. Alright, so here's our mod chip prepped. Normally I'd just solder each wire as I go and try and trim them to length, but this time I thought, why not try and solder each wire to the mod chip itself, bend them into roughly the right shape and pre-trim them. So let's see how this goes. So it's going to sit around there somewhere. Obviously I haven't done 5 or 6 yet because they're down here, and they're actually a lot easier to do than when you're working with this very short amount of wire. So let's see how this goes. Right, I think we are done. So let's test this out, see if it works. Right, we'll just start off with an original disc. Here we go. Oh, because there's no screws, that it wasn't actually pushing down on the door switch. It works. Whew. Yep, that seems fine. Right, let's try a totally legit backup. It's booting. No problems. Cool, that all seems to be working. I'll do some further tests off camera with some other games that have different types of copy protection, and check some FMV playback as well with burnt discs. But dare I say, we're not going to run into any issues. The main thing with these is servicing that CD-ROM drive, and I showed how to do that in the last video. And of course, I did not touch the laser trim pot on these things. In fact, I don't recommend doing that, because once you go messing with that, you're pretty much just going to be shortening the life of your laser. And although that is considered a service adjustment, you really need the right tools and the knowledge to be able to make any sense of the results. Just basing everything off the value of a resistor isn't going to do you any favors, and there's a good chance you'll either shorten the life of your laser or instantly kill it. So I consider pot tweaking a last resort, something you do once you've exhausted all other options. So that's it for this one. I'll put up a wiring diagram on my Discord server. I've also got ones for the PU20, the PU23 and the PS1 back there. So if you're interested in seeing any of those, yeah, they're on the Discord server. Links to that are in the video description. Yeah, leave me any thoughts or comments in the place where the comments go, and a huge thanks to the people that support the channel on Patreon. If you want to do the same, links to that are in the video description, like everything else that's in the video description. Oh my god, why do I keep saying video description? Bye.